5,000 years ago, a man in a city of mud and reeds pressed a stick into wet clay. He was not writing a poem. He was not recording history. He was counting sheep. And with that one act, human civilization got its first written words. Those words were a debt. We tend to imagine writing was born from something noble. A king's decree, a sacred text, a love letter carved in stone. But the truth is stranger. Writing was invented to track who owed what to whom. The city was Uruk in ancient Sumer around 3300 BC. It was the largest city on earth. Roughly 40,000 people lived there, and every one of them needed to eat. The temples collected grain. The temples distributed beer. Workers got rations. Merchants moved goods up and down the Euphrates. And all of it had to be tracked. Human memory couldn't do it. Not at that scale. So the Sumerians made tokens. Small clay shapes. A cone meant a measure of grain. A disc meant a loaf of bread. A cylinder meant an animal. You owed the temple 10 jars of oil? 10 tokens went into a hollow clay ball sealed shut. Here's where it gets strange. If the tokens were inside the ball, how could anyone check them without breaking it open? They pressed the tokens onto the outside of the ball first. A quick impression. A receipt. And then someone somewhere had a thought that would change everything. Why bother with the tokens at all? The impressions alone carried the information. The ball was empty. The tokens were gone. And writing had been born, not from art, not from religion, but from accounting. Archaeologist Denise Schmantbesserat spent decades tracing this exact chain, from tokens to envelopes to tablets. Her research flipped our origin story of writing on its head. By 3000 BC, the impressions had become symbols. Styluses pressed wedge shapes into clay. We call it cuneiform. And when researchers translated the earliest tablets, they found lists. Workers, rations, beer. So much beer. The oldest known recipe in the world is for beer. The oldest known payment records are for beer. Sumerian workers were literally paid in it, about 4 to 5 liters per day. Think about that the next time you get your paycheck. Money is older than the alphabet. Numbers came before letters. For centuries, nobody wrote a single sentence. They only counted. But here's the question that keeps historians up at night. If writing began as bookkeeping, when did it become something more? Around 2600 BC, the symbols started capturing sounds, not just things. Now you could write a name, prayer, a threat. Within a few hundred years, a Sumerian schoolboy was copying out proverbs on clay, complaining about his strict teacher in the world's first recorded homework. Writing had escaped the counting house, and nothing would be the same, because writing didn't just record civilization, it accelerated it. Laws could outlive the lawmaker, contracts could bind strangers, knowledge could travel further than any ship, and survive longer than any king. But the debt part never went away. In 2003, a lawyer named Stephen J. Kuiper studied Sumerian loan tablets and found they read like modern mortgage contracts. Interest rates, penalties, witnesses. The Sumerian word for interest, mas, also meant calf. Your debt grew like a herd. Sound familiar? Historian of economics David Graeber argued that debt is the real foundation of human economies, that long before coins, long before markets, there were obligations carved into clay. The ledger came first. Everything else came after. And it wasn't just Sumer. In Egypt, hieroglyphs recorded taxes. In China, the earliest writing tracked royal harvests and divinations about crops. In Mesoamerica, the Maya counted tribute in cacao beans. Over and over, across civilizations that never met, the pattern repeats. Count first, write second, poetry last. Now zoom out. Today, your bank account is not money. It's a record, a line in a database, updated in real time. Most of the world's money has no physical form at all. It's entries in ledgers, exactly like those clay tablets, just faster. When you tap your card, you're not exchanging coins. You're updating a 5,000-year-old idea. And that raises an unsettling question. Did we invent money? Or did money invent us? Because the moment debts could be recorded, they could be enforced. Armies could be paid. Empires could be taxed. Power itself became something you could write down, store, and pass on. Some scholars argue civilization didn't create the ledger. The ledger created civilization. There's one more detail. The oldest named human being in all of recorded history, the first person whose name we can read, was not a king, not a god, not a hero. His name was Kushim. He was an accountant. On a small clay tablet from Uruk around 3300 BC, he signed his name next to a record of barley. 5,000 years later, the kings of Uruk are dust and forgotten. But the accountant is immortal. We like to believe writing was invented to preserve our greatest thoughts. But it was invented to answer the oldest question in human society. Who owes what? Every poem ever written, every sacred text, every love letter, every constitution. All of it descends from a man in Mesopotamia counting someone else's grain. And maybe that's the real reframe. Writing wasn't born when humans had something beautiful to say. It was born the moment we needed to remember what we owed each other. The first word ever written wasn't love. It wasn't God. It was a number. And in a way, it still is.